Ethical investing has really been in the news lately, highlighted not so positively by what's been going on at one of Hunter Hall's funds. But today, Morphic Ethical Equities Fund lodged its prospectus with ASIC. It's the first ethically screened LIC, listed investment company, that's been launched supposedly in a decade, and it plans to invest in businesses, well, as the name suggests, that will not harm the environment, people or societies. It's supposed to be a planet-friendly investment option. The IPO is set to formally open next week, and for more on this new LIC, which also has the likes of fund manager Jeff Wilson involved in it, well, Morphic Asset Management's Jack Lowenstein joins me from the CBD studio. Jack, welcome to you. Now, we talk a lot, once a week generally. The IPO is formally supposed to open, March 13. What is it you're trying to achieve with this new LIC?
We want to offer an opportunity for people who want to make money from their investments, but want to do so knowing comfortable they're not going to be investing to make the world a poorer place by investing in companies that produce greenhouse gases and the other stuff you talked about, no tobacco, no gambling, no armaments, no destruction of old-growth forests.
I mean, that sounds incredibly laudable. I know you didn't put, you didn't mention oil companies in there or fossil fuels, did you?
No, we can't invest in fossil fuels or oil companies. So we're basically, we believe that greenhouse gases are by far the biggest issue, ethical issue facing the world today, and so they're explicitly excluded. So we're not going to invest in coal, oil and gas, or indeed nuclear, because I think one thing I've become very aware over the years is that nobody really knows how to shut down a nuclear reactor.
So, Jack, I mean, it all sounds very laudable, but aren't you limiting then what sort of companies you can invest in and get value for people who might go along with you and become investors?
Look, a lot of academic literature has been written on this, and the general view is that the kind of ethical screen, negative ethical screen we're applying does not seriously affect returns. What I can say to you is that we ran the rule, or we did a simulation of our existing fund, the Morphic Global Opportunities Fund, which is not ethically screened, and we discovered that we'd have added about 30 basis points, 0.3% per year to our performance had we run the screens we're currently running. So that says it doesn't necessarily impact on your performance, but the key point is that typically ethically screened funds do better than the market when the oil price is falling, and their biggest risk in terms of underperformance is when the oil price rises. But
right.
Because we have a positive screen on the fund, which means that we've always got to be looking to at least to 5% of the fund to stocks that are exposed to making the world a better place, like, for example, alternative energy. We believe we've got a very good hedge for that. So we think it's unlikely that we will underperform because of our screen, because if we believe that the oil price is rising,
yep,
we're going to be much more interested in alternative energy.
All right, Jack, a number of issues I want to get to fairly quickly. Now, some investors and even the general business community, even if you weren't in it, looked on aghast at the recent happenings in Hunter Hall and wondered, well, what the heck happened there? That was ethical investing. Won't people look twice about, or think twice about investing in another ethical fund?
Well, I hope not. I mean, first of all, as you know, I worked at Hunter Hall from 1997 to 2011. I left in 2011 because I could see the issues that were currently arising, that we're currently seeing, were already bubbling to the surface. And, I think my own reputation and that of my colleagues and the board of Morphic Asset Management, and indeed the new board of Morphic Ethical Equities, will speak to a different kind of culture. I really hope that's the case.
Different how? Just briefly tell us how will the culture be different? Well,
I mean, governance is very different at Morphic Asset Management. I don't own 50% of the business. I own about 30% of the business. We're 1/3 owned by Westpac, which I think is, in this context, a very positive thing. We have an independent chairman, which Hunter Hall never had. Our independent chairman is a chap called Nick Minogue, who is the former head of risk at Macquarie Bank and is very well respected and seen as an extremely ethical person and a very, very thorough and fastidious person. So I think that all that governance stuff is very good. I'd also point out that one of my former colleagues at Hunter Hall, Mark Forsman, who was a non-executive director of Hunter Hall has joined the board of the Morphic Ethical Equities Fund. Mark quit in September last year. He knows me very well. I think if he thought that I was going to do the kind of stuff as occurred at Hunter Hall, he would never have joined our board.
All right, so you're talking about the culture and the people you're surrounding yourself. For investors, though, how can you guarantee, I guess, and you probably never can, that you can get a good return by investing ethically and excluding all those companies we've talked about?
Well, I suppose I spent all my career since I set up Morphic in ethically screened funds. My performance at Hunter Hall is well known to have been, shall we say, good, and I don't think nothing there impeded Chad or myself, Chad Slater, my partner, and myself, from delivering very good returns for investors through the cycle, and included a very high rise in the oil price. So you may recall that the oil price went to stratospheric levels towards the end of my period. So nothing really stops us from performing there. I think ultimately the skill of the fund manager, and I hope I still have that, the skill of the fund manager trumps the fairly narrow restrictions we put on ourselves through the ethical screen.
All right. Jack Lowenstein, the Morphic Ethical Equities Fund. The prospectus has now gone to ASIC today. When can people inquire about it if they want to see it? They
can see it now on our website, but they can't subscribe until the exposure period finishes in about 3 or 4 days' time, we hope.
Right, OK, so next week have a look for it. Jack Lowenstein, Morphic Asset Management, thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.